950 KTNF, the progressive voice of Minnesota, and streaming live right now on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/@The Gaily Show. That's Gaily. I'm JP Derbergosian, your host. Joining me in studio is our executive producer, Jim Pounds. Hello, Jim.
Greetings, all.
And in the control room today, our producer, Brett Johnson. Brett, hello.
Hey, good to have you guys back again for week number 1.
I know, right? I can't believe, this has been a riot so far this week. And we've got two really fabulous guests with us here today. We're going to get into some really deep stuff here. Up first, however, Brave New Workshop is still presenting their holiday show, Big Christmas Energy, a hilarious annual holiday celebration full of sketches and songs to make your spirits bright. It's time to kick off the year correctly, nog yourself into oblivion, and deck the halls with reckless abandon. We have a number of tickets to give away. Performances are Thursdays, Fridays, and Saturdays now through the end of January. So how about this? If you are listening right now and if you want to call in, we will take the third caller. You'll talk with Brett. The third caller today will get 2 free tickets to Big Christmas Energy. So that number is 952-946-6205. Again, that number is 952-946-6205. Third caller gets a pair of tickets to Big Christmas Energy at Brave New Workshop. Okay, on the show today, we're going to be talking about voter and automatic voter registration with Sam Oliker-Friedland, who is the executive director of the Institute for Responsive Government. After that, Fernando Lopez, the senior strategist and Creating Change director at the National LGBTQ Taskforce, will join us to talk about the Creating Change conference, which starts 2 weeks from today. But up first, Sam Oliker-Friedland. Sam is a voting rights litigator at the Department of Justice Civil Rights Division under both the Obama and Trump administrations. I'm going to ask about that. And prior to that, he worked on election administration law and data in the nonprofit sector. Sam, welcome to the Gaily Show.
Thank you so much for having me. It's great to be here.
So there is a lot to get to with automatic voter registration. Jim, do you want to kick us off with our first question?
Thanks, Sam. After the election, of course, I stayed in bed for a couple of days, and then I started looking for some sort of something I could hang onto that gave me any sense of optimism. What in the world were we going to do given this, what appeared to be the outcome? And one of the things that I had thought in my mind might be a possibility was automatic voter registration. And the last time that I looked into it, only about 3 states, as I recall, had such a thing. And so I did a search, and suddenly I found, oh my gosh, 23 states at that moment had automatic voter registration. So I thought, let's at least, for many people that don't know what that is, let's maybe start with a definition, and then you give us the perspective from a national standpoint.
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think, after the November election, regardless of what you think about the outcome, one of the most important things to me is that the process actually worked incredibly well. Local election officials, those county auditors in Minnesota, local election officials across the country administered an excellent election with high participation. And whatever you think about the outcome, that's the kind of thing we love to see at Responsive Gov. One of the reasons I think that you actually saw unprecedented participation rates is that, like you said, in the space of only about sort of 10 years since, it's almost 10 years since Oregon passed the first automatic voter registration bill, states across the political spectrum have started to use this policy to make government more efficient, make government agencies more efficient, and really importantly, open up that process to more and more people. So to get into the weeds for a second, which is a place I love to be, this policy basically works whenever you go into an agency, that's government agency that's already collecting some information about you. We ask, can we use that information that the agency is already collecting to efficiently and securely register you to vote? So the Department of Motor Vehicles is the classic example of that. I think you all call it DPS offices, right? When you go in there and you're already providing your name, your address, you're proving whether you're a United States citizen or not, you're providing your birth date, you're providing all these identity documents. we say, what if we just use that interaction to just register you to vote? That's all of the information we need to register you. That information then gets securely transmitted to election officials who do a final double check of that information, offer you an opportunity to opt out. And then if you don't opt out, that path of least resistance for everyone is that you end up registered to vote. And there are other agencies, government agencies, that we can do that same process at. Medicaid is a classic example that does really good citizenship verification and is another possibility for automatic voter registration. States have started to explore various tribal agencies as a possibility for automatic voter registration. But by far, by volume, this happens the most when people get their driver's license. And it's just a fantastic example of you're making me go into that office. You're making me take an hour off work. You're making me sort of stand in line for a little bit. Once we're doing that, why don't we try to check as many things off the list as we can while we're there with that sort of one process of asking me to fill out a form. And then you're registered, and then you can participate, and then you are ready to participate at that correct address in whatever the next election is.
Are we somehow trying to make a correction for people's natural laziness? Or is that, I mean, what is the, when you think about it, I mean, depending on the household you grew up in my household, you were expected to vote. It was an expectation. It was of paramount importance, and it didn't matter what else you were doing. That was what you did that day. And that's not true for everybody. So this seems to be kind of correcting for whatever people don't put it at the high enough priority. So we'll just kind of take care of that for you. Is that so convenience?
Yeah, and I would even actually flip the laziness argument a little bit. I don't think, and automatic voter registration is a great example of government looking out for ways that they can make people's lives easier and making sure that we're being really respectful of people's time as government. So I don't actually think that it's reasonable to expect me to fill out a form with information the government already has over and over and over again, just to sort of receive a benefit that I deserve as a citizen. And so, maybe I'm a little bit lazy. I don't really want to fill out that form again, but I don't think the government should be asking me to fill that out again to begin with. When I let the post office know that I moved, when I let the DMV know that I moved, that should automatically update my voter record as well, because it doesn't make sense for me to have to sort of have that conversation over and over and over again. And so this is just a little bit easier for everyone. It uses technology effectively. It makes things more secure. It makes sure that we're not losing paperwork in the shuffle. It makes sure we're not wasting people's time both filling out and then processing information on paper. And then really allows us to spend that time that we would have spent on paperwork, thinking about what candidate we want to vote for, making sure we know where to go to cast that ballot or how to vote a mail ballot, whatever you prefer, that we're all using our time well. And I think that should be the sort of goal of government and citizens alike.
And I think anyone that cares about democracy wants everyone to vote, don't they? I mean,
Exactly.
I try to make the argument against wanting people to vote. I can't. My brain melts down. So I imagine everyone, regardless of your political opinions, wants everybody to express their opinion, because then the outcome is more representative of as much of the country or the county or whatever is possible, right?
That's exactly right. And unfortunately, that's not what we see everywhere. We see relatively low voter turnout rates across the country. And it's very clear that those people like me, who my job is to advocate for democracy and make people want to participate in democracy, we have a lot more work to do to convince people that that's worth doing, that that's a worthwhile use of their time, coming together with their neighbors, that it really is sort of creating something that's more than the sum of its parts in terms of value to people's families. I think a great way to start that is just to get folks on the voter rolls. It means that when the Secretary of State sends out information about how to participate, if you've gotten automatically registered, you're on the Secretary of State's list to receive that information. When campaigns and organizers and community organizers have lists of people to go door to door and talk to, if you've been automatically registered to vote, you're on that list. If you're someone who doesn't vote and you're not registered to vote, you're not on anyone's list to talk to. You're not on anyone's outreach list. And it's very clear that we need people to be having more of those conversations about how important democracy is, doing that really hard work of convincing people that it's worthwhile. And automatic voter registration really just sort of sets the foundation for those conversations to happen. And they're difficult and they're long. And I really think that they're what's going to lead to an incredibly strong democracy in the long term.
And you're feeling that the turnout has increased. I mean, there's all kinds of opinions about that and different ways to think of it, but your general feeling is, and is this statistically true, or it's your sense that turnout is up because automatic voter registration exists in 23 states?
It's always impossible to sort of prove statistically with relatively limited data where things are coming. But I will say there is a strong correlation between states that have made policies to make voting easier, like automatic voter registration, and states that have higher voter turnout. There's room to grow everywhere. So congratulations, Minnesota. You are consistently one of the highest states for voter turnout in the country. Secretary Simon would not approve if I didn't say that while I was on the show. Congratulations. But there's still room to grow. There are still hundreds of thousands of Minnesotans who aren't participating. And they tend to be the folks who are most likely to be sort of disenfranchised by every area of society, not just voting. And so the more we can do, I think, to sort of like add folks into that process, we can get everyone up to, something close to universal participation, where we really are hearing the voices that I think are currently missing from the process. But it's very clear that it's not just that automatic voter registration raises turnout. It does. That's pretty clear. That's fantastic. It's that it really actually puts all those voices that are traditionally excluded from our democracy into the process. Oregon, which, as I mentioned, has had it for a longest time, has seen not only higher voter turnout, but higher voter turnout among young people, higher turnout among racial groups that traditionally have lower participation rates, higher turnout among both rural and urban folks. It really is a sort of panacea to get new folks into the process. And that's, I think, the piece that I'm most excited about, in addition to those larger, broader turnout gains.
If you are just tuning in, our guest is Sam Oliker-Friedland, who is the Executive Director of the Institute for Responsive Government. If you head to their website, responsivegov.org, you can see a lot of research that they are collecting and putting out there regarding automatic voter registration. And I've got some questions. We're going to take a quick break coming up here, but I've got some questions related to this idea of voter fraud and the millions of so-called non-citizens that are voting, right? We're going to get into that I've got some questions for you, Sam, regarding that, and some other things about the differentiation between different types of automatic voter registration. We're going to take that break right now. Please visit and support our sponsors who keep progressive news and analysis on the radio. See you all on the flip side.
Hey, it's Patrick. Your friends and family may be gone now, but the messes that were left behind on your carpets, rugs, upholstery, and more remain. That's why you need to call my cleaning heroes at Zero Res and get 2024 out of your house for good. That's why to start the new year, Zero Res is offering 24% off all cleaning services for the month of January. That's 24% off carpets, tiles, rugs, upholstery, any surface in your home, and don't forget about your air ducts. Call Zero Res right now at 952-ZERO-RES or visit ZeroResMinnesota.com and ask for the AM 950 special. But Zero Res isn't just good for cleaning up the post-holiday messes at home. They can make your business look great too. Zero Res was out at the station this fall, and we couldn't have been happier with their quality of work and their professionalism, and the station looks great. So don't wait. Book your home cleaning today. Call 952-ZERO-RES or go to ZeroResMinnesota.com and ask for the AM 950 special. Zero Res.
LGBTQ plus folks in the Twin Cities and beyond, a new all-ages LGBTQ plus community resource center and social club has just opened right in the heart of uptown Minneapolis. Queermunity includes a full-service cafe with a seasonal menu featuring queer and BIPOC farmers, a maker's market with rotating local vendors, a community-curated media library, meeting and event spaces, co-working desks and rentable offices, and a fully stacked program calendar. Queermunity is free and open to the public 7 days a week from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m., and this is made possible through support of community memberships. For as low as $20 a month, members provide the reliable and consistent funding Queermunity needs to keep their doors open to anyone who wants or needs to come inside. As a thank you for your support, Queermunity offers exclusive benefits, including discounts and credits towards in-house purchases. Visit queermunitymn.com/membership to sign up today. Come out and come over to Queermunity, where you belong.
Hi, I'm Mary T, inviting you to experience our integrative Mary T Health and Wellness Center, offering physical, occupational, speech, and lymphedema therapies. Experience our guided imagery, meditation, Tibetan medicine, dry needling, massage services, including cupping and oncology massage. Sign up for our free wellness screenings and learn more at marytwellness.com. All major health insurance providers are accepted. Come for therapy, experience wellness.
Step into the world of movement and native culture at Nimiwin, now showing at All My Relations Arts. Nimiwin is translated as Everyone Dance. This moving multimedia exhibition, curated by Josie Hoffman, delves into the connection between movement and identity, drawing inspiration from dance and powwow traditions. It showcases the work of Indigenous artists from Minnesota, emphasizing the fluidity of movement in our bodies, land, and community. Witness Nimiwin and its powerful expression on Indigenous art, on display now through January 18th at All My Relations Arts in Minneapolis.
Welcome back to the Gaily Show. I'm JP Devergosian. Executive producer Jim Pounds is with me here in the studio. With us is Sam Oliker-Friedland, Executive Director of the Institute for Responsive Government. We're talking about automatic voter registration. And Sam, thank you for giving Minnesota a shout out there. Minnesota's new automatic voter registration system went live last April. And residents who apply for state-issued IDs, such as driver's licenses, are now automatically registered to vote without having to opt in, as you were talking about, Sam, in that first segment. Talk to us about the two different types, though, of automatic voter registration, because I'm looking down here, and on your site, you've got 11, of which Minnesota is one, that have secure automatic voter registration, and then there are another 15 who have partial automatic voter registration. So what is the difference between the two of those?
Yeah, I mean, roughly what we're talking about is the gold standard system called secure automatic voter registration that registers people with zero paperwork whatsoever that isn't necessary. Then there's a sort of range of systems that have done something to automate the voter registration process. We call those partial automatic voter registration systems. Those are great first steps towards what we hope will ultimately land at that gold standard system. And those are basically make people do a little bit of paperwork, but less paperwork than they had to do before to get registered to vote. But sort of what I described at the beginning of this episode, where you really do go in, we just use the information you're already providing to register you to vote securely and automatically. That's that gold standard. That's what Minnesota has passed, which is fantastic. And we call that secure automatic voter registration.
So what happens with then if someone, because I worked in higher education and there were a lot of my students who didn't need a driver's license and they didn't, because of that, they're like, well, what is the government ID? So what do folks there, what is the touch points for them to become automatically registered to vote if you're not going in and getting either a government ID for whatever reason, or you're not driving?
It's a great question. First of all, there are plenty of folks who don't get a government ID at all, but there are a lot of people who don't get a driver's license. They don't drive, but they still go get that state identification card. So you get a decent number of folks through that non-driver state identification card process, and we can do automatic voter registration there exactly the same as we do with a driver's license. I briefly mentioned Medicaid offices. That's a great opportunity to automatically register a group of U.S. citizens who is less likely to have a driver's license than other folks. Again, through that Medicaid application process, we capture everything we need from U.S. citizenship to current residence address and can use that to automatically register people. I'm looking forward to some new frontiers in voter registration work. There are places, colleges and universities starting the process of automating voter registration opportunities at the process at the point of enrolling for classes. That's fantastic. And ultimately any interaction with a government agency where we're verifying citizenship, we think is a great opportunity to do voter registration. We think it's good to take it slow. It's good to implement these policies carefully, slowly, make sure we're doing it right every step of the way. But then I think as we do that, we can stepwise add more and more agencies that do that citizenship verification into the pipeline. And I think there's some really exciting, I'm sure there's some exciting opportunities that we haven't even thought of yet.
So would that have to be then the public universities and colleges, or could private institutions do that as well?
It's an interesting question to explore. I am not seeing any reason that private colleges and universities couldn't participate in an automatic voter registration system. And one of the things that I love about automatic voter registration system is that it sets up different databases and different government agencies to talk to each other really well. And that opens up even more opportunities to do more of this work efficiently and sort of in a tech forward kind of way. And so once the DMV and Secretary of State databases are connected and we can sort of securely transmit information between them about voters, if you add in sort of the Medicaid agency to that, suddenly we have this sort of pipes in place to get differently formatted information into that voter registration database automatically. And it really does sort of open up more and more opportunities for that. This is a policy that sort of builds on itself. And that's one of the most exciting parts.
Yeah. Okay. So thank you for all of that. It's really, as someone who worked in community colleges right now, I'm immediately thinking we did voter registration drives, and particularly with student senates. And I'm like, oh, I didn't even think be able to advocate to say, hey, why don't we just do this at an administrative level? I do want to ask you about, which we hear less of because a particular candidate won in November. And so apparently all the people that were propagating these lies suddenly are happy with our voting system here in the US. And I know we have a lot of foreign governments that like to also propagate these lies, that we have millions of non-citizens registering to vote and voting within our country. And I know there was a case that the Republican Party in Minnesota tried to bring forward. And I know there was something in Oregon, but talk to us about like your take on and responding to all of these this disinformation and lies about the American voting system.
Yeah, I mean, the last 4 years have been tough in terms of breaking through the noise to do really solid fact-based policy work. And that it's been a tough environment since 2020 to do that in. First of all, there is no evidence that there is widespread voter fraud or widespread non-citizens voting. It just doesn't really sort of make sense that people would be doing this. I think that we really like to look for opportunities to sidestep the hottest sort of political fights, support government officials doing really, really good work, and find areas that everyone can sort of agree on. And one of those areas that everyone can agree on is that we should treat people's time respectfully, and that we should do everything we can to prevent voter fraud and make sure that only citizens are on the rolls and that the voter rolls are accurate. And whatever you think about the last 4 years, whatever you think about the sort of like politics of voting that we've seen, everyone can agree that those two, we want access, we want security. Everyone actually really does agree on that. Why don't we use the most effective point of identity verification that we have in American society, which is that long list of documents that you're proving who you say you are when you go into the DMV, for example? Why don't we use that to register people to vote? And it's a great example of, let's say you're concerned about voter access and not enough people being registered, not enough people participating. This is a great policy that meets that goal. If you're concerned about non-citizens on the rolls, if you're concerned about voter fraud, let's do voter registration technologically, efficiently, and securely at that point when people are already proving their identity. We're only allowing sort of verified citizens to go through this automatic voter registration process. And that's a great way. If you wake up in the morning concerned about voter fraud or concerned about non-citizens voting, this is a great way to fix that. And so it's a tough environment, but like I love this policy because it really is sort of a win-win for access and security, depending on what your sort of mix of concern about both of those issues is.
Sam, thank you so much. I know that we have literally just touched the top of the iceberg on this. Sam Oliker-Friedland is the executive director of the Institute for Responsive Government. Their website is responsivegov.org. So much more information for you to peruse when you go to their website. A lot of great research. And I love also whoever did your website. Thank you. Really broke it down and really digestible. Like I didn't feel like I needed to rely on my public affairs master's degree to go there. So well done. Thank you for that.
Thank you for visiting.
Absolutely. You're a friend of the show. We're going to have you back here. Folks, stay tuned. After the break, we're going to have Fernando Lopez joining us to talk about the Creating Change Conference. Stay tuned.
Thank you to everyone who supported AM 950 over the past 5 years. Your contributions have helped us remain one of the few progressive talk stations in the entire country. To show our appreciation, we're offering 2 special gifts this year. First, the official 2025 AM 950 radio calendar. It features photos from Matt McNeil's adventures over the past year and key dates in progressive and AM 950 history. Second is a signed copy of Tom Hartman's latest book, The Hidden History of the American Dream, The Demise of the Middle Class and How to Rescue Our Future. Here's how you can claim these gifts as a thank you for becoming an AM 950 member. For the AM 950 calendar, make a recurring monthly donation of at least $10 or a one-time donation of at least $30. For both the calendar and the signed copy of Tom Hartman's latest book, donate at least $25 per month or a one-time gift of at least $100. Visit am950radio.com to become a member today and receive your thank you gifts. Thanks for supporting independent progressive media with AM 950.
Hey, Minnesota, it's Brad Friedman, host of the Bradcast. You're listening to AM 950 KTNF, St. Louis Park, Minneapolis, St. Paul, the progressive voice of Minnesota.
Start the new year with nonstop laughs at Brave New Workshop's Big Christmas Energy. This holiday tradition, now running through January, is packed with sketches and songs to keep the laughs going. Enjoy new sketches and perennial favorites, including their unforgettable take on the 12 Days of Christmas. Whether you're recovering from awkward holiday conversations or just looking for a good time, Big Christmas Energy will leave you smiling. Catch Big Christmas Energy Thursdays through Saturdays in January at Brave New Workshop in Minneapolis. Get tickets at bravenewworkshop.org.
End-of-life decisions are not easy to make. Hi, I'm Mary T. of Mary T. Hospice Care. It's important to make sure that this difficult time is meaningful and comforting to you and your loved ones. Our hospice team provides an individualized program of physical, emotional, spiritual, and practical care so your loved one is comfortable and not in pain. At Mary T. Hospice, we understand that choosing the right hospice care provider can be overwhelming, but we're here to assist you. Learn more today at marytinc.com.
ATNF AM 950 St. Louis Park, Minneapolis, St. Paul.
Turn to Auto Technical with your vehicle donation. We have families waiting for a car. You know, over 85% of unemployed are successful in finding and keeping a job if they have dependable transportation. A car plus a job equals a life changed. 612-919-5526. We have families waiting for a car. 919-5526 or autotech.org.
With your AM 950 weather, I'm Brett Johnson. Look for sunny skies today with a high near 19, tonight cloudy with a low around 14, and Thursday some light snow with a high near 27. Looking for the perfect night out? Head to Crooner Supper Club. There's amazing shows all year long, and stop by Maggie's Lounge for cocktails and conversation. Visit croonersmn.com for more info. Crooner Supper Club, old school nightlife with a modern twist. That's Crooner Supper Club.
And welcome back to the Gaily Show. I'm your host, JP Derbogosian. In studio with me is Jim Pounds. Very excited about our next guest here, Fernando Lopez, who is the Senior Strategist and Creating Change Director at the National LGBTQ Taskforce. We got to meet Kathy Renna at the GLAAD Media Awards last year, which I'll take any opportunity I can to mention the GLAAD Media Awards. But it's been so great getting to know Kathy. We've done a lot of interviews with her and the staff, particularly about getting out the vote last fall, which was the task force did a really amazing work to get out the vote. Obviously not the outcome that we wanted, which is why we wanted to have Fernando here to talk about the Creating Change Conference, which is happening 2 weeks from today, I believe, or was it 2 weeks from yesterday, Fernando?
We'll be starting 2 weeks from today.
Okay, well, welcome to the Gaily Show. It's great to officially meet you.
Very good to meet you. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Okay, so I'm laughing because I'm trying not to cry. I guess the first main question, I want to know what's happening at the Creating Change Conference, but I think my first question as a prelude to that is, how are you processing the catastrophe, and how is that kind of shaping what's going to be happening at Creating Change? Because we want to get as many people there as possible, and some last minute registrants to come to the conference. So yeah, how's it going?
What a big question to start us off with. So
I have big feelings, Fernando. I've got big feelings right now.
I think same, and everyone's having big feelings right now, right? And rightfully so. So a few things, like personally, I have been doing this work for 25 years. I've worked for local, national, state, international LGBTQ advocacy and policy organizations of all different kinds, and I've had a relationship with the task force for 20 years. And
you're only like 30 years old. That's amazing.
Look, I'm just drawn this way, but so we've seen a lot of change in my lifetime, right? I'm in my mid 40s. I've seen a lot of progress. I've seen a lot of backslides, and so I don't think that what we're doing right now is in any way surprising. And what I like to remind us all about is that so many folks in so many states we're already living under these really draconian, really harsh discriminatory laws and policies. So for so many folks, communities of color, immigrants, women, trans, non-binary folks, LGBTQ people living in this country, the reality of the discriminatory policies that we're already living in was here, right? So the battles that we're going through now, in some ways are the same. In some ways, it's a different stage. And so what creating change has really been for 37 years is an opportunity for leaders from all over the country predominantly, but we do have folks from all over the world to come together to find family, to find connection, to fill that cup back up, to find strength and strategy. What is working? What isn't? What are the messages? What are the policies? What are the tactics? And how can we lean on each other? And so while I know a lot of folks woke up the day after the election and had a lot of justified fear and anger and rage and resentment, I woke up the day after the election with a deeper sense of purpose and connection to the work and an understanding of my specific role in this organization at this particular moment is really exactly what you were saying. It's about convening folks together. Mm-hmm. That's the first part of my answer. The second part is we have been spending the entire year meeting with folks on the ground, organizational leaders all across the country, folks in Nevada, in Las Vegas, listening to those questions, the answers to those questions. What's working? What's not? How can we bring folks together? And again, folks are rightfully infuriated and they are excited to come to creating change because they know that that's where they're going to be re-energized to engage in this work. So I'm frankly really looking forward to being around my, around 3,000 queer nerds who love doing this work. Like that's really exciting for me. So that's, I think, how I would answer that.
It's a weird, so I'm in my 40s too. And on one hand, I'm like, okay, we're just basically going back to my 20s and where things were in this country 20, 30, 40 years ago, what my experience generally for most of my life has been. Then there's folks, Gen Z, Gen Alpha, where they're kind of coming of age. And, the Obama presidency was the presidency that was their point of reference, not Reagan, like mine was, like ours was. And so there's this really weird cognitive moment here where there's some of us were like, we're going backwards. There's some of us that are like, what is going on here? We don't know. This isn't our experience of this. We've known federal protections. And then there's this other level of Project 2025, which is, well, yes, I don't want to say yes to all of what you just said there about folks in Idaho and Montana and Arkansas have been living in these moments with no state level protections. And then we see Project 2025 coming in and saying, okay, well, we're also going to take away what's happening in Minnesota and California and New York and try as much as we can to strip away those states' abilities to provide freedoms to and protections for LGBTQ people. So that's my really long segue into what are you all offering then? What are the programming options at Creating Change here to begin to try to respond to these different areas, to convene people and kind of hold space for all of that, and then try to create that pathway forward of, okay, here's the different areas of how we're going to have to respond starting immediately and then over the next 4 years? Another big question for you, Fernando.
Yeah, and that, I think that's the right question for this moment, in particular for this conference, right? Is, you know, the conference is absolutely this huge tentpole event for the organization, this huge pillar event, but it's really a part of the continuum of the year-round work and engagement with local, state, and federal partner organizations that we're doing all throughout the year, every single year. And at the conference itself, it's not just an opportunity for networking, it's an opportunity for skills building. And so what we really do at this conference, it's impressive to think of this scale that we do this at. So there's about 421 speakers. There's 27 day-long institutes that focus on anything from different racial justice sort of lenses and ethnicities and affinities to sectoral-based knowledge and skills around fundraising or meeting communication. We have some really specific new day-long institutes around grassroots and field organizing. There is a new one this year that I'm really excited about from the 22nd Century Initiative that has to do with directly combating the rise in political violence. So those are the day-long institutes, and there's 27 of those. We also have 129 workshops, 49 caucuses. There's 17 different types of ways to worship if you're a person of faith, for all sorts of people of faith. We've got 14 different affinity spaces, which are for unstructured learning and networking, where folks can sort of build their own community and programming. There's over 74 different organizations that are coming to exhibit to help bring people into those different organizations. There's hundreds of different organizations that are going to be present. And in addition to that, there's a level of care that we can get to later, but I do want to go back to the level of care that we offer our attendees. But from a curriculum standpoint, that's sort of the framework. The other piece that we do is we have 4 plenaries throughout the conference, which is the big convening, right? Like the thousands of people all gathering together and having this deeper conversation around a few specific topics. And this year, our opening plenary is focused on the rise in Black leadership in progressive and LGBTQ spaces. And what that leadership really looks like, how are Black leaders treated differently than their non-Black counterparts, what sorts of equitable support can we provide our Black leadership, and make sure that now that we've placed, as you know, broadly we, the LGBT and progressive movement, have placed so many LGBTQ and Black leaders into those positions of power, how can we ensure that we're supporting them? And so that's our opening plenary, is Black Leadership Rising. The second plenary is Democracy, Fascism, and the Road Ahead. It's a really deep dive into the specific attacks around democracy, voting rights, and the rise in political violence that we've been seeing, particularly from white supremacist and Christian nationalist groups. So I'm really looking forward to that conversation, and I think we're going to see a lot there. The third is a State of the Movement, where we broadly sort of, what is the landscape overall for the LGBTQ progressive movement. And then the last plenary that we're doing is entitled We Got Us, Safety and Security. And it is a plenary, a panel discussion of all transgender leaders from intersectional movements, from different movements. So of reproductive justice, criminal justice reform, disability justice, youth advocacy, really re-envisioning what safety and security will look like in this new reality. I'll pause there.
Well, I think there's so much of that I think you all are so great at doing, and particularly the intersectional part of that work that has been so crucial. And so it's great to see the task force continuing to build upon that. Something that was new to me in the sense of the pushing it really forward was the fascism part of it. I think that it was not on my bingo card last year, my drinking bingo card to get through that election, of former generals and staff members of Trump saying he's a fascist. Like, we've been saying that, we recognize it, we see it, but to have his actual former staff and generals call that out and outline and bring receipts about that. So I was really happy to see that focus for this upcoming Creating Change conference. Can you talk a little bit more about, because I don't think that maybe as a movement per se, and also just the broader left, is fully come to terms with the impending fascism that we are facing here. So talk to me about how you're crafting that and who's going to be part of that plenary session.
Sure. So I think what many folks who have been deeply involved in this movement have understood is that before we had sort of Project 2025, we had things that were called a Project Blitz or RFRA laws, beta laws, the Religious Freedom Restoration Act, like those so-called things where seemingly innocuous pieces of legislation were entered into different levels of municipal code or county or state level policy, and they were cherry picked in a way to be disruptive to the judicial jurisdictions to whittle their way up to the Supreme Court, right? And we've seen that happening for over a decade in the ways that it chipped away at reproductive rights, and how in Dobbs' decision, marriage was targeted, but even the criminalization of homosexuality, right, was targeted when they specifically named Lawrence v. Texas in the Dobbs decision. And I think while like so much focus came onto marriage, what was really terrifying for folks who were keyed in was, wait, they're talking about putting us back in prison just because of who we love, right? We're looking at the ways that laws around medical decisions for not just children.
Totally. Sorry, Fernando. I hate to. I got so into this conversation. I got to fit in a commercial break here.
Yeah,
more
go for it.
Fernando after this break. We'll see you soon.
Just a small question.
8 years ago, over 100,000 Minnesotans marched to the state capitol, standing together to defend women's rights, immigrants' rights, queer rights, and justice for all. Now, as our freedoms face new threats under an incoming administration built on oppression and divisiveness, it's time to stand together again. Join the People's March on January 18th at the Minnesota State Capitol. Together, we'll send a clear and unmistakable message: we will not go back. Building on the legacy of the Women's March Minnesota, this year's event will include a march to the Capitol and a rally. You'll connect with Minnesota organizations working to protect our rights. These organizations need your support, not just now, but over the next 4 years and beyond. The weather may be cold, but our commitment is unbreakable. The stakes are too high to stay silent. Let's show the strength of our voices as we fight for Minnesota's future. Again, that's the People's March on Saturday, January 18th at the state capitol. Details at womensmarchmn.com.
LGBTQ plus folks in the Twin Cities and beyond, a new all-ages LGBTQ plus community resource center and social club has just opened right in the heart of uptown Minneapolis. Queermunity includes a full-service cafe with a seasonal menu featuring queer and BIPOC farmers, a maker's market with rotating local vendors, a community-curated media library, meeting and event spaces, co-working desks and rentable offices, and a fully stacked program calendar. Queermunity is free and open to the public 7 days a week from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m., and this is made possible through support of community memberships. For as low as $20 a month, members provide the reliable and consistent funding Queermunity needs to keep their doors open to anyone who wants or needs to come inside. As a thank you for your support, Queermunity offers exclusive benefits, including discounts and credits towards in-house purchases. Visit queermunitymn.com/membership to sign up today. Come out and come over to Queermunity, where you belong.
Greg Bakken here. Like you, I love good, fresh, delicious food. So I want to tell you about this treasure in Roseville called Maverick's Real Roast Beef. Maverick's has the best roast beef sandwiches I've ever had. Made fresh, every order. Add fries or onion rings dropped in the fryer when ordered, and you have a winning combination. Maverick's Real Roast Beef has a lot more than roast beef, so check out their website, mavericksbeef.com, or check out their restaurant on Lexington in Roseville.
Seward Co-op offers convenient grab-and-go options as well as hot bars and salad bars at both the Friendship and our newly remodeled Franklin store. Breakfast items are available daily until 11 a.m. and brunch is served all day every Sunday. Our weekly lunch and dinner menus highlight culinary traditions and cuisines from around the world. We offer vegan, vegetarian, and gluten-free items every day. 90% of the ingredients used are from organic, local, and small-scale producers whenever possible. Learn more at seward.coop.
You're listening to The Gaily Show on AM 950 KTNF, the progressive voice of Minnesota. With us is Fernando Lopez, Senior Strategist and Creating Change Director at the National LGBTQ Taskforce. Fernando, before the break, you had mentioned something I'd like you to speak a little bit more to, which is the imprisonment of queer people, specifically when Justice Thomas, in overturning, amongst a majority, overturning abortion rights in the Dobbs case, mentioned Lawrence v. Texas as they should be going after that next. Lawrence v. Texas, for folks who aren't legal nerds, was a decision by the Supreme Court in 2003 to overturn Bowers v. Hardwick, which was in the 80s. And what happened in Bowers was that in Texas, the cops went into the bedroom, into the house of a gay couple and arrested them for having gay sex. And that was, and the Supreme Court said, yeah, states can do that. Absolutely. You can bust into anybody's bedroom and arrest them for that. And it wasn't until 2003 that the Supreme Court said, maybe not. Maybe we should, overturn that. And now we have a conservative majority where at least one of them is saying, yeah, bring that case to me. I want to see that so that we can use the Dobbs decision as precedent to then overturn this. And they were even talking about, getting rid of laws protecting interracial marriage as well. So, Fernando, can you speak a little bit more to that?
Yeah, I think, again, whether it was through Project Blitz, through the Dobbs decision, or Project 2025, the right-wing extremists are really putting it up front and center, the tactics that they are wanting to use. Like, they're saying that what used to be the quiet parts quite loudly and telling us exactly what they want to do, how they want to do it. And so I think they've really given us a gift. Like, so, we can talk about all the doom and gloom in the world. And I think that was really the point that I was making, is that originally, is so many folks are already living in a fascistic state. We've known what's coming. We've been talking about what's coming, folks who are in the movement. And as the reality is confronting us, more and more folks are sort of coming to that understanding of, this is real, this is happening now. And so what are the roles that I have to play, and can I play in breaking all of these things down and maybe fighting back against that? Like, is that organizing? Is it fundraising? Is it community aid? What are the ways that I, as an individual, can show up in combating these things that are happening, that are absolutely terrifying and real, and we're being confronted with it in our lifetime? As you said, we've seen the ebb and flow of this happening across our lifetime, and it's really terrifying to think that this is here.
It's the ebb and the flow that becomes cognitively exhausting. Cognitively, emotionally, spiritually, physically,
all of it.
To see the constant. And to your point, I mean, my dad's family is from Northwest Lower Michigan, and they never stopped saying there was no quiet part. It was always out loud, and it's just how loud that it's been getting, more and more so that it just feels like it's impossible to escape from. What I do after all of this, though, I want folks to know, how do they register for Creating Change? I'm assuming there's still slots still open for folks to show up.
So unfortunately, the deadline closed on
JP. What did you say?
On December 30th. But maybe if you email us, you might, because they watched the show, we'll let them through. So just say a little birdie told you.
A little queer birdie on the Gaily Show. Something about it. No, this is thank you. This has been really special. I know I was asking some really big questions, and because I think a lot of folks are having, not just me, some big feelings, and I can't think of any better place than the Creating Change conference to find ways to process that. And the largest, biggest environment. I'm pretty sure you guys are the biggest LGBTQ conference in the world, aren't you?
We're the largest LGBTQ advocacy and policy conference in the world. Yeah.
Thank you for the work that you're doing for that, and just listening rather to all the different ways that you're doing that. It's really important. And folks, if you're not able to make it this year, what I also loved seeing was on the different registration options of how, if you even volunteer, pick up some volunteer shifts, you can have your registration fee waived, correct?
Yeah, so actually there are still 2 days left to sign up to volunteer. So general registration is closed, unless maybe you emailed me because you watch the show. We are looking for volunteers, and volunteers get in for free. So go to the website, creatingchange.org, check it out, sign up to volunteer. We could really use those additional shifts.
Perfect. Well, there you go. Everyone, get there. I'm sure there's only slots left, so get there, volunteer. What an amazing place to volunteer. If you're going to volunteer at one place this year, that would be the volunteer place to do it at. Fernando, thank you so much for joining us here on the Gaily Show. You are a friend of the show. I want you back on here to talk about more big things. I'm gonna get ready. I'm gonna throw more big questions at you.
Would love to come back anytime. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. Folks, I want to bring up a couple of other things. The Brave New Workshop is still presenting their show, Big Christmas Energy, their annual hilarious holiday celebration full of sketches and songs to make your spirits bright, particularly as we have an inauguration impending upon us. So it's time to kick off the year as right as we can, knock ourselves into oblivion, and deck the halls with reckless abandon. Performances Thursdays, Fridays, and Saturdays through the end of January. So if you go to our Blue Sky, it's at thegailyshow.org. Go on there, follow us. Any new followers as of 3 o'clock Central Standard Time today will be enrolled, submitted part of the giveaway. We're going to be giving away a number of tickets to that show. So if you live in the Twin Cities area or want to drive into the Twin Cities, it's absolutely gorgeous right now thanks to climate change. We don't have any snow, he says sarcastically. So thank you all for listening today. We're going to see you tomorrow at 2 p.m. for Thinking Clearly, Thinking Queerly. My guest is going to be Ellie Krug, host of Illegal Trans Woman Radio. You can watch The Gaily Show anytime on our YouTube channel. You can stream it everywhere you get your podcasts or at am950radio.com. Again, connect with us on Blue Sky or Instagram. Up next is The Matt McNeil Show. After that, stay tuned for Native Roots Radio. Bye, everybody.
Hi, I'm Peter Solak.
And I'm Adam Ostrowski.
We are here at Woodland Stoves and Fireplaces to talk about the joy of live fire cooking. Cooking over a live fire is the oldest and most basic form of cooking.
What's new is in the way fire is handled and its heat is managed.
It's easier to experience and enjoy the smell and taste of food cooked over a live fire.
Woodland Stoves and Fireplaces sells and installs live fire grills, fire pits, and ovens. Let us help you experience the smell, the taste, the fun of cooking with fire.
Pizza was first made and is still best made in an open fire oven. The radiant and conductive heat of a live fire is unmatched for wood roasting and baking artisan breads too.
Come see the many ways you can cook over a live fire.
Woodland Stoves and Fireplaces has over 35 working wood and gas units on display at the corner of East Franklin and Riverside Avenue in Minneapolis. More information at woodlandstoves.com. Find the fire that works for you. Woodland Stoves and Fireplaces, out of the ordinary products and services since 1977.
Hi, it's Matt McNeil. Listen to the Matt McNeil Show from 3 until 5 weekday afternoons right here on the progressive voice of Minnesota, AM 950 KTNF, St. Louis Park, Minneapolis, St. Paul.
AP News, I'm Mike Hempen. Fierce winds are raging in the Los Angeles area, fueled by powerful Santa Ana winds. National Weather Service meteorologist Peter Mullinax says the high winds and low humidity are making fighting wildfires in Southern California very difficult.
These types of winds and relative humidity levels are such that these are extremely favorable for fire weather conditions should they ensue. And in this case, with several fires ongoing,